I talk a lot about non-judgmental awareness and that judgment is the issue, in particular, value judgment. A value judgment is saying that something is ultimately good or bad. Really, the teaching on that is that things are good or bad really by virtue of their function. So something is good for something or it's bad for something, you could say, for example. It's a discernment to say John is taller than Fred, for example, if you've measured their height. But to say, therefore, John is better than Fred, like as a being, his human beingness is somehow superior. Well, that's where we get into dark territory. Someone who's taller might be better at putting things on high shelves. So let's say you have two people working at a stocking facility like a warehouse. Well, it would make sense to take the taller person and use them for putting things on higher shelves. And, it's a functional distinction, but it's not an ultimate distinction. It's a relative distinction. And it's really important. So the admonition not to judge, like Jesus says, judge not lest ye be judged. That's talking about value judgments. But we make discernments all the time, and it's important to do that. When there's a crisis, you get really functional really fast, or you try. If I'm going to refrain from judgment based on what I was just talking about, that statement is neither ultimately good or bad, but it doesn't have any ultimate significance in itself. Just like saying John is tall doesn't mean he's somehow ultimately superior. It means he's better at some things. And he's worse at others. He's not as good at the limbo or something, going under something. When I was 19 years old and I went to my first sort of new age group, there was an event. I was in college in Austin, and it was a pretty new agey event. In the group, I said something about higher consciousness. Now, I was 19 years old, so it's not like I knew what I was talking about, but I said something about higher consciousness. And a woman who was leading the group said in this kind of peremptory, imperious tone, "Oh, we don't judge." And I was like, again, I hadn't had a lot of experience with this stuff. And I was like, that's not right. I don't know what that is. There's something about what she just said that bothers me, and I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure out what it is. And I was studying philosophy, and I was pondering these things. It is when you're that age. But what I realized was this distinction between value judgment and discernment. So, for example, is it true, relatively speaking, that ultraviolet light is a higher frequency than infrared? Yeah. You can measure it, and it'd be kind of ridiculous to suggest otherwise. It doesn't mean that ultraviolet light is better. Now, it's better at certain things. It's better at breaking chemical bonds. That's why if you leave your vehicle out in the bright sunlight in the desert over during the summer, it'll actually break down the vinyl in your dashboard on your car. Ultraviolet light is really good at breaking those kinds of bonds. If you want to cook your food, then infrared is more useful, but neither one's better in some ultimate sense. That's ridiculous. So when she said we don't judge, it was to imply that there's no such thing as higher consciousness, which is utter bullshit, really. I mean, let's be straight. It's like saying there's no such thing as morally good behavior or bad behavior. Well, of course there is. And it has to do with how we act. And it's an important distinction or discernment to make. But that's not to say that if I say donate money to a charity or help someone, that I'm somehow, as a person, like superior. That's ego inflation. It's important. So, okay, there's a teaching, judge not, right? Lest you be judged. Now that we know what judgment means, it means value judgment, not discernment. Someone had asked me a question one time Very intelligent question this person asked. And it was something like, well, okay, if awakening is the end of suffering, then aren't you saying that suffering is bad and that awakening is good or superior in some ultimate sense? Like awakening is the ultimate good in some way, it's better than something else. And it was a good question. The answer is that awakening is not better. It's more like, pain hurts. There's a thought experiment that I've come up with, and it definitely gets to the crux of what we're talking about. Imagine someone you love very much. Could be your grandmother, your mother, sibling, a friend, someone you respect and admire and deeply love. So if you imagine this person that you deeply love, and there's someone standing there with a cigarette lighter and they're going to inflict pain on your loved one, and you ask, would you rather that happen or not? And it's pretty clear that you'd rather it not happen. Would you want this for your loved one? The answer is no. And what's the reason? So if you close your eyes and imagine, I just imagine a kindly grandmother that bakes cookies. They're just totally innocuous and loving, and there's a sense of warmth and peacefulness, and you're like, oh, grandma, I love you. And she's in some dungeon and something's going to happen to her, and the question is basically, would you rather that happen or not? It is immediate, without thinking. It's obvious. And it's interesting that you don't have to think about that. Because it doesn't require thought, there can't be a judgment that comes into it. We can't make a value judgment without thinking. So it is an immediate conscious response based in love and connection that doesn't judge and yet makes discernments and immediately wants those we care about to be free of suffering. So it's ingrained in us. It is who we are. It's a functional capacity we have to love. So it's not something we have to think about. It's something we can cultivate. We call it compassion. If we cultivate compassion and it's active in us and real and alive, we automatically want others to be free of suffering, and it doesn't require any thought. And it's because of the reality of suffering, and it's because we love. We're hardwired for love, and it doesn't require us to make judgments. And that is at the heart of it. When I woke up, it was clear to me that it's such a beyondness. It really is transcendent in a certain way that's hard to explain, and that's wonderful. It's just that it includes everything. So yeah, it includes suffering, and it manifests really as love in a practical sense or in a lived sense. We can't really live without love. It's like food. So you think of someone that you love and immediately you don't want that person to be harmed. It is simple and obvious, really. If we could extend that out to all beings, it makes us more profoundly human and more spiritual. That's why compassion is so important.